What if I told you that the way you've been learning your entire life is backwards? Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists who ever lived, didn't just master quantum mechanics, he mastered the art of learning itself. And his secret wasn't spending more hours studying. It was doing the exact opposite of what schools teach you. Here's the brutal truth. If you keep learning the way you're learning now, you'll keep getting the same frustrating results. You'll spend hours reading textbooks and remember almost nothing a week later. You'll cram for exams and forget everything the moment they're over. You'll feel like you're working hard but getting nowhere. This isn't just inefficient, it's robbing you of your potential. The gap between where you are and where you could be gets wider every single day you use the wrong method. But here's what Feynman discovered that changed everything. The human brain doesn't learn by absorbing information like a sponge. It learns by doing something with that information. When Feynman was at Princeton, his colleagues would spend 12 hours a day reading physics papers. Feynman would spend 2 hours reading and 10 hours trying to explain those concepts in the simplest possible terms. Guess who became the legendary physicist? The one who spent less time consuming and more time creating. Let me show you exactly how the Feynman method works, step by step. Step 1. Choose your concept pick. One specific thing you want to learn, not a whole textbook chapter. One concept. Let's say you're trying to understand how gravity works. Write that concept at the top of a blank page. That's it. Just the name. Step 2. Teach it to a child. Now here's where it gets interesting. Pretend. You're explaining this concept to a curious 8-year-old. Write out your explanation using the simplest words possible. No jargon. No technical terms unless you can define them in plain English. For gravity, you might write, "Gravity is like an invisible rope that pulls things together. The bigger something is, the stronger its pull. That's why the Earth keeps the moon spinning around it instead of the moon floating away into space." Notice what happened there. You translated a complex force of nature into a simple mental picture. That's not dumbing it down. That's understanding. Step 3. Find your gaps. This is the most important step, and it's where most people quit. As you try to explain the concept simply, you'll hit walls. You'll think, wait, why does mass create gravitational pull? Or, how does gravity work if there's nothing physically connecting objects? These aren't failures, they're discoveries. Every time you can't explain something, you've found a gap in your understanding. Feynman would literally keep a list of these gaps. He called them the good stuff because now he knew exactly what to study next. Step 4. Review and simplify. Go back to your source material, but this time with laser focus. You're not reading the whole chapter again. You're hunting for answers to your specific gaps. Find the answer, then return to your explanation and fill in that gap using simple language. Let's say you discovered you don't really understand why mass creates gravity. You research and find out it's because mass curves space-time. Now you add to your explanation. Imagine space is like a stretched rubber sheet. When you put a heavy ball on it, the sheet dips down. That dip is what we feel as gravity's pull. Step 5. Repeat and refine. Keep going through this cycle. Explain, find gaps, research, simplify. Each time through, your explanation gets clearer and your understanding gets deeper. Feynman would do this dozens of times for a single concept, until he could explain it to anyone, anywhere, without hesitation. Here's a real example from Feynman's life. When he was working on quantum electrodynamics, one of the most complex theories in physics, other scientists' explanations were hundreds of pages of dense mathematics. Feynman's explanation, he drew simple diagrams that showed what was actually happening. Those diagrams, now called Feynman diagrams, are still used today because they make the impossible understandable. Why this works. The science. Your brain has 2 modes, recognition and recall. When you just read or listen, you're using recognition, the weakest form of memory. It's why you can think, oh yeah, I've seen this before but can't actually explain it. When you force yourself to teach, you activate recall, the strongest form of memory. You're not just recognizing information, you're reconstructing it from scratch. That reconstruction process builds deep, permanent neural pathways. Studies show that students who use the Feynman method retain information 3 times longer than students who use traditional study methods. Not just 10% or 20% better, 3 times better. Common mistakes to avoid mistake. Number 1, using complicated language to sound smart. If your explanation requires a dictionary, you haven't understood it yet. Mistake number 2, skipping the gap-finding step. The discomfort of not knowing is where the learning happens. Don't run from it. Mistake number 3, trying to explain too much at once. 1 concept per session. Master it completely before moving on. Your action plan tonight, before you go to bed. Pick 1 concept you're trying to learn, just 1. Open a blank document or grab a piece of paper. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Spend those 20 minutes trying to explain that concept in the simplest possible terms. When you get stuck, and you will get stuck, write down your question. Tomorrow, find the answer to that 1 question. Then try explaining again. Do this for 5 days straight with the same concept. By day 5, you'll understand it better than if you'd spent 10 hours reading about it. Here's what Feynman understood that most people never realize. Confusion isn't the enemy of learning. It's the prerequisite. Every time you feel confused, you're standing at the edge of understanding. Most people run away from that edge. Feynman ran toward it. He weaponized his confusion, turned it into a roadmap, and used it to become one of the greatest minds in history. The same method that unlocked quantum mechanics can unlock anything you want to learn. The only question is, will you have the courage to admit what you don't know so you can finally learn what you need to? Start today. Pick your concept. Explain it simply. Find your gaps. Fill them. Repeat. In 1 month, you'll be learning faster than you ever thought possible. Write in the comments the first concept you're going to tackle using this method. Subscribe for more techniques that actually work. And remember, understanding isn't about how much you know. It's about how clearly you can explain it.